Indeed, it was a miracle that I embraced Islam. Allahu Akbar. In hijab, I felt myself different. I felt myself purified and protected. I felt the company of Allah. As a foreigner, I felt sometimes uneasy in a public place, stared by men. With hijab, I was not seen. I found that the hijab sheltered me from such impolite stares. I was very happy and proud in hijab, which is not only the sign of my obedience to Allah, but also the manifestation of my faith. Besides, hijab helps us to recognize each other and to share the feeling of sisterhood. The hijab has also the advantage of reminding the people around me that Allah exists and reminding me of being with Allah. It tells me, be careful. You should conduct yourself as a Muslim. As a policeman becomes more conscious of his profession in his uniform, I had a stronger feeling of being Muslim with hijab. Soon I started to put the hijab before my going out from the house whenever I went to the mosque. It was a spontaneous and voluntary act, and nobody forced me to do so. 2 weeks after my conversion, I went back to Japan. Two weeks after my conversion, I went back to Japan to attend the wedding ceremony of one of my sisters, and decided not to go back to France now that I became a Muslim and found that I had been looking for the French literature did not interest me anymore. I had rather an increasing passion for learning the Arabic. For me, it was a trial to live in a small town in Japan, isolated completely from Muslims. But such isolation helped me to intensify my consciousness of being a Muslim. As Islam prohibits the woman to disclose the body and to wear clothes which accentuate the body line, I had to abandon many of my clothes, such as mini skirts and half sleeve clothes or blouses. Besides, the Western style fashion does not match with the hijab. I decided therefore to make a dress by myself. I asked a friend of mine who knew dressmaking to help me, and in 2 weeks I made a dress with a pantalon after the model of a Pakistani dress. I didn't mind people looking at my strange fashion. 6 months had passed since I went back to Japan. My desire to study the Arabic and Islam in a Muslim country grew so intense that I decided to realize it. I went to Cairo, where I knew only one person. I was at a loss to find none of my host family spoke English. To my great surprise, furthermore, the lady who took my hand to lead me into the house covered herself all in black from top to toe, including the face. Such, quote, a fashion is now familiar to me, and I adopted for myself in Riyadh, but at that time I was quite surprised at the sight. I attended once in France a big conference for Muslims, and in that occasion I saw for the first time a woman in black dress with a face cover. Her presence among the women in colorful dress and scarf was very strange, and I said myself, there she is, a woman enslaved by the Arabic tradition without knowing the real teaching of Islam. Because I knew few things of Islam at that time, and I thought the covering of the face was but an ethnical tradition not founded in Islam. The thought which came to me at the sight of a face-covered woman in Cairo was not very far from that. She is exaggerating. It's unnatural. Her attempts to try to avoid any contact with men seemed also abnormal. The sister in black dress told me that my self-made dress was not suitable to go out with. I was not content with her because I thought my dress satisfied the conditions of a Muslim's dress. I bought a black cloth and made a long dress and a long veil called khimar, which covers the loins and the whole of the arms. I was even ready to cover the face because it seemed good, quote, to avoid the dust, end of quote. But the sister said there was no need. I shouldn't put the cover face for such a reason, while these sisters put it because they believed it to be a religious duty. Although most of sisters whom I got acquainted with covered the face, they constituted but a small minority in the whole city of Cairo, and some people apparently got shocked and embarrassed at the sight of black khimar. Now I can comment and say this is alhamdulillah more often or more frequent. Indeed, the ordinary more or less westernized young Egyptians tried to keep a distance from those women in khimar, calling them the sisters. The men also treated them with a certain respect and a special politeness on the street or in a bus. Those women shared a sisterhood and exchanged the salam on the street even without knowing each other. Before my conversion, I preferred an active pants style to a feminine skirt, but the long dress I started to wear in Cairo got to please me very soon. It makes me feel very elegant, as if I had become a princess. I feel more relaxed in long dress than in a pantalon. My sisters were really beautiful. And bright in their khimar, and a kind of saintliness appeared on their faces. Every Muslim devotes his life to Allah. I wonder why people who say nothing about the veil of the Catholic sisters criticize the veil of the Muslimah, considering it as a symbol of terrorism or oppression. I gave a negative answer when the Egyptian sister told me to wear like this even after my return to Japan. If I show myself in such a long black dress on the street in Japan, people might think me crazy. Shocked by my dress, they would not like to listen to me. Whatever I say, they would reject Islam. You see, this is a beatification of shaitan, as you can tell. Shocked by my dress, they would not like to listen to me. Whatever I say, they would reject Islam because of my appearance, without trying to know its teachings. Thus I argued with her. My comment on this: shaitan wants the Muslim to feel inferior. The believer, however, remembers that Islam is from Allah, and the person he is dealing with is only a created being who will die and will return to answer for his rejection of Allah's religion. The hijab for women and the beard for men are to be respected first by the Muslim in order to feel strong about their appearance. And this can be achieved by remembering that these outwardly appearances are commanded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger. This is my comment on this. We continue now with Khawla. 6 months later, however, I got accustomed to my long dress and started to think I may wear it even in Japan. So just before my return to Japan, I made some dresses with light colors and white khimars, thinking they would be less shocking than the black one. The reaction of the Japanese to my white khimar was rather good, and I met no rejection or mockery at all. They seemed to be able to guess my belonging to a religion without knowing which it is. I heard a young girl behind me whispering to her friend that I was, quote, a Buddhist nun. Once on a train, I sat beside an elderly man who asked me why I was in such a strange fashion. I explained him that I was a Muslim, and in Islam women are commanded to cover the body and their charm so as not to trouble men who are weak to resist this kind of temptation. He seemed very impressed by my explanation, maybe because he didn't welcome today's young girls' provocation fashion. He left the train thanking me and saying he would have liked to have more time to talk with me on Islam. My father was sorry that I went out even on the hottest day in summer with a long sleeve and a head cover, but I found the hijab convenient for avoiding the direct sunlight or the direct sunlight on the head and the neck. I felt rather uneasy in looking at the white thigh of my younger sister, who wore short pants. I have often been embarrassed even before my conversion by the sight of a woman's busts and hips traced by the shape of her tight thin clothes. I felt as if I had been something not to be seen. If such a sight embraces me, who is of the same sex? It is not difficult to imagine what effect it would give to men. Why hide the body in its natural state, you may ask? But think it was considered vulgar 50 years ago in Japan to swim in a swimming suit. Now we swim in a bikini without shame. If you swim, however, with a topless, people would say you are shameless. But go to South France's beach, where many women, young and old, take a sun bath in a topless. If you go to a certain beach on the west coast in America, the nudists take a sun bath as naked as when they are born. On the other side, at the medieval times, a knight trembled at a brief sight of a shoe of his adoring lady. It shows the definition of woman's secret part can be changed. How you can answer to a nudist if she asks you why you hide your busts and hips, although they are as natural as your hands and face? It is the same for the hijab of a Muslim. We consider all of our body, except hands and face, as private parts because Allah defined it like this. It's why we hide them from male strangers. If you keep something secret, it increases in value. If you keep something secret, it increases in value. Keeping woman's body secret increases its charm. Even for the eye of the same sex, the nape of a sister's neck is surprisingly beautiful because it is normally covered. If a man loses the feeling of shame and starts to walk naked and excrete and quote make love in the presence of other people, he would then become no different than an animal. I think the culture of men started when men knew the sense of shame. Some Japanese wives put their makeup only when they go out, never minding at home how they look. But in Islam, a wife tries to be beautiful, especially for her husband, and a husband also tries to have a nice look to please his wife. They have shame even between themselves and towards each other. You may say why we are quote oversensitive to hide the body except the face and hands so as not to excite men's desire, as if a man looks always at a woman with a sexual appetite. But the problem of sexual harassment, so much talked about recently, shows how men are weak to resist to this kind of attraction. We could not expect prevention of sex harassment only by appealing men's high morality and self-control. As a short skirt might be interpreted by men to say, if you want me, you may take me. A hijab means clearly, I am forbidden for you.